Well, I thought this could be an interesting trade retrospective video. It's one where, listen, there's a lot of to be determined here with the Russell Wilson trade. It's only been 1 year, so I don't think it's totally fair to sit here and say that, say one way or the other, whether there was a win or a loss involved. But I do think it's interesting to, just a year removed, look at where we're at right now and who is currently looking like the winner and who is currently looking like the loser. I think kind of everyone naturally thinks, okay, as of right now, Seahawks feel like big winners. They made the playoffs. They don't have a potential terrible contract if Russell Wilson is legitimately bad now. Things are looking okay for Seattle, but I do think it's interesting to just go back and look at what actually happened. So this was the trade. There were plenty of players and picks given up here. So the Broncos at the top of the screen, they got Russell Wilson along with a 2022 fourth rounder, which they use on Ayuma Uzurike. So, that's what they got. Basically, Russell Wilson is the thing here. As for Seattle, what did they get back? Well, they got some players. First off, Drew Lock, who we thought maybe they liked, maybe they wanted to use him as a starter. He ended up not becoming the starter. Obviously, Geno Smith did and played very well for the Seattle Seahawks. You then have Noah Fant, who, listen, I still think there's a chance that Noah Fant could be good. Did not, hasn't yet to show he's really outstanding, but is a solid contributor at, if nothing else, for the Denver Broncos. You also have Shelby Harris. That was the third player they got, who they would end up cutting after last season. So those are the three players. Nothing crazy, needle moving there. Although again, Fant, someone who definitely was a hyped up prospect and could still live up to the hype, and is still a solid contributor as of right now. But then they got a lot of draft capital, including pick number 9 in this draft. In this draft class, which they used on Charles Cross, who, if we're being honest, as of right now, hasn't totally lived up to the hype. I think he could. I'm not out on him yet necessarily, but, he didn't have a great rookie year. I think that's fair to say, but maybe there's hope that he could improve. You also have Boye Mafe, who I don't think had a great rookie year either. That was picked of pick 40, and then Darian Kennard, who they actually did not select. That was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's what ended up happening there. Also, they get pick the first and second round picks for the Denver Broncos in 2023. Those are going to be picks 5 and picks 37. So 2 very valuable picks still coming Seattle's way. But I do have to say, looking at this list, it's a little bit easier to stomach if you're a Broncos fan, given the fact that as of right now, there really hasn't been a great player go to the Seattle Seahawks out of this. There's been a lot of draft capital, but so far, again, Charles Cross could totally turn it around, and then you'll feel good about it for Seattle. But as of right now, it's not a massive win maybe the way some people say. I think people perceive it to be a massive win from Seattle's perspective for a couple of reasons. For one, you just don't have a terrible contract with Russell Wilson. And again, I don't think we know what Russell Wilson is at this point. If Russell Wilson is indeed a bad quarterback, then this is a massive win, basically because they got rid of a negative asset. That's the main reason why it would be a win. It would be a win getting rid of Russell Wilson on that contract, even if you don't get anything back. Just getting rid of that situation, that is a win. However, we don't know that, and I guess my question is, what would Russell Wilson's value be right now? If the Broncos decided to trade him, how much would they get back? And again, probably not a ton. I don't know how many teams would be willing to take that chance, but if Russell Wilson ends up being Russell Wilson again, they still feel like this is a steal of a trade. I mean, the reality is, when we thought that Russell Wilson was going to be great, we thought that Seattle did not get enough back for him. And I kind of look at that now and say, yeah, if Russell Wilson still ends up being good, the Broncos are not going to look back at this and say we screwed up. The main reason why Seattle is in a much better spot right now is because they upgraded at quarterback by doing this. Like, that's not what anyone expected, was Geno Smith massively outplaying Russell Wilson. I mean, week 1 when they played each other and the Seahawks won, it was a massive surprise that Russell Wilson struggled as much as he did. And I don't know if Wilson's going to continue those struggles, but the reality is, if people are saying, well, this is why you don't pay quarterbacks big money, this is why you should trade them away. No, this is why you trade away players who aren't good anymore when they still have value left. That's the lesson to be learned here, is that if Russell Wilson actually sucks and the Seahawks knew it, well, then making sure that they could get rid of Russell Wilson is the smart move, especially when they had a player behind him who they liked. So while I do think Seattle clearly won this trade so far, I don't think it's a question. I do think people have kind of learned some wrong lessons from it. Again, the reason why the Seahawks made the playoffs last year did not have a ton to do. Again, they got some more draft capital from trading back with Darian Kennard, but the actual picks that they got from this specific trade didn't do a ton. Cross did, again, he was at the very least league average, or at least replacement level tackle, which there still is some value in that. But as a whole, it's not like Noah Fant and Shelby Harris and Drew Lock were the reasons that they made the playoffs. If they were, then I'd be sitting here saying that's why it's a massive win for Seattle. It's a win for Seattle because they got rid of Russell Wilson in the contract, but that's the main reason why it's a win. But again, for Seattle, who cares? You're happy you made the playoffs. Everything is good. Life is good. But for Denver, I don't think you necessarily feel terrible about the trade itself, actually. I think what you feel terrible about right now is just the fact that Russell Wilson sucks. Like, that's the thing, and maybe his contract as well. But the trade itself is not a big deal, I think. I think that's worth... I still look at this and say, you know what? Given the information Denver knew at the time, it probably still was the right move. It sucks that Russell Wilson isn't good now. That's kind of how I view this stuff. So, while I do think that it's a win for Seattle and a loss for Denver, I think it's not crazy to think that it could change next year. But for now, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.